Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey.
All right, man, we are here today in Dan Hurst's basement.
Yes.
And Dan has a beautiful, he's on a lake, actually, right here, called Lakewood, near Knobtown, Missouri. And Dan has gone out to fish real quick, so he's out there. No, he's actually left the room for a minute, so we're going to do a podcast while he's gone.
Because he's doing something really
He
important.
actually went to his Studio A.
That's
We're
right.
in Studio B in his house.
That's right.
He's in Studio A doing a national commercial for a
truck company or something.
truck company.
Yeah. It's top secret.
That you would know. Let's just say it's the best-selling pickup in America for the last 50 years, and he's doing a commercial for that. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
Then he comes back here and does our little podcast.
I know. He's so kind to hang out with us.
And he is. But he's doing a truck commercial right now. So I'm here with Mark Hallock, and our friend Kyle is running the board over here. And we're going to talk today about, man, an incredibly important issue that most of us struggle with and have no idea how to deal with, and that is just how to shepherd a flock. We use that word all the time.
Yep.
In fact, I often talk about, you are the appointed under-shepherd, and I'm grateful God's appointed under-shepherds that are here in the room today, and we are all shepherds of His. What's it mean to shepherd people in 21st century North America?
Yeah.
Is it just preaching? Is it counseling? Is it leading teams? Yeah, it's all of those things. But it's far, far more.
Yep.
And how, like, you went to Inglewood, church was 30 or 40 people. Now, a dozen years later, it's 800. And it's not because you are some sort of an amazing, charismatic leader who can just preach down the stars, even though, Mark, you are an amazing, charismatic leader who
No,
can
it's
preach down
definitely
the
not
stars.
that. It is definitely not that.
I tell you what it is. It's that you are committed to being a shepherd, and that you have a system to be a shepherd. Most of us don't have a systematic approach to shepherding people.
Yes, that's true.
And the things that really matter in life are things we have a systematic approach to. If we just do it haphazardly, it looks haphazard.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the importance of shepherding, and give us an idea of how you, first when your church was 30 people, how you shepherded those 30 people.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Man, well, let me give you just a little background on my story. So when I'd been a youth pastor for 13 years before the Lord called us to go to Calvary. Now, one of the catalysts that led us to go to Calvary to help revitalize this dying church was I had been turned on in about a year previous. I'd been reading the Puritans. I'd never read the Puritans. What I had read were a lot of church growth books. Okay, I'd been under the leadership of a couple great guys who were very heavy in the church growth movement, and I loved that stuff. And my personality kind of fit it. And so, even in youth ministry, it was about, man, growing the youth group. And man, I really, it became an idol in my heart. I basically saw myself as a success or failure, depending on how many kids showed up at youth group. And anyway, all this stuff, numbers. Not that it's all bad, but for me, it was almost like it was sucking the joy of ministry out of me. Well, that's when I had a friend say, you know what, have you ever read the Puritans? And I said, no.
Right.
He goes, and he literally said, I'm going to give you a couple books to read.
Okay, name them.
Okay, so one was Richard Baxter's The Reformed Pastor.
Okay.
Which is old school. I don't even know if I'd recommend it to a lot of, it's a classic.
It's not an easy read.
It's not an easy read. It's a little depressing. But anyway, that was one. And I'm like, Well, then I read, here was the book, is Robert Murray McCheyne, his Memoir and Remains by Andrew Bonar.
Okay, say that again. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's the Memoir and Remains of Robert Murray McCheyne.
I've seen that movie.
Who was...
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
He would probably put you to sleep, actually. But here's the deal about McCheyne. He was a Scottish pastor, actually died at the age of 29, but was an incredibly gifted shepherd. And in these Memoir and Remains, it's basically his journal entries. I remember where I was when I was reading it. And I was in a season of my life where honestly I was really tired. I was burning out in ministry. and everything was going great.
Can I tell you real quickly? Also, as a child of the church growth movement, one of the things that's consistent in the church growth movement is it wears you out.
Yeah.
Because every year's got to be better than the year before.
That's
every Easter's got to be bigger than the Easter before. It's all about increased, more and more. And, there's some good things in the church growth movement. Absolutely. I mean, we don't want churches to die, for goodness sake. We want the kingdom to grow.
Yep.
But there's some carnal things in it
Yes.
that almost make it feel like it's my responsibility. And also, if it's my responsibility, then it's kind of I kind of get the reward for it.
Yes.
I'm the one making it grow. And I remember so many times when I was first planning the church, I'd come home on Sunday night, and I got to be honest with you, if we'd had like a record attendance that day, I'd feel pretty good about myself. And I'd say, I think I can do this.
Yep.
And that's sinful.
And then the next week,
it's down,
and you feel like
you
a
go
failure.
like, man, what did I do wrong this week?
I know.
I did something wrong this week.
I mean, it's not an exaggeration.
It wears you down.
Oh, it wears you down. You can't win.
No.
And
so compare that to what you were reading here.
So that's where I was. I was literally at that place where I'm like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And this isn't why I got into ministry in the first place. Now, I didn't have that realization until I read McShane, and then that sent me on a path to a bunch of other guys. But here's the thing. Here's my point. I'm reading Robert Murray McShane, and keep in mind, like my mindset, I'd come to believe that really success in ministry is about how big you get. If I were to like boil it down,
of course,
how big, how many kids are coming, how many youth small groups do you have? It was all numbers.
Let's be honest. To some degree, your salary is going to be based on how big your church is.
Right.
In a general suggestion.
Yeah. And I'm just like, man, I'm reading the scriptures and I'm going, man, it's not that big numbers are bad, but Jesus sure doesn't seem to be focused on that. Well, anyway, so McShane, I'm reading this. Here's this guy who is shepherding this little congregation, okay. In Scotland. And I don't know, let's say maybe he had 80 to 100 folks in this little community. Because, in that day, I mean, you would find pastors who would pastor a village, literally.
Right.
And he was a very gifted preacher. And so there were other churches in larger villages, one nearby, that wanted him to come and pastor them. And I think, if I remember right, it was like 1,000 people or something like that. And in his journal, it's almost like you hear him almost like weeping, going, "Oh God, oh Lord, I can barely stand the weight of 100 souls. I can't bear the thought of being responsible for 1,000 souls." And I read that and I go, what in the world is he talking about?
That's not church growth.
That is the opposite of everything I've ever heard. I mean, literally. And I'm going, what is that? Well, here's what it sent me on was an understanding, I think a true understanding of what a pastor is and the weight and joy of being a shepherd of God's people. Hebrews 13:17 talks about how we will give an account for those who are under our care. I had never even thought about that concept before. And yet it like freed me to go, this is why I was wanting to ministry in the first place.
It's to care and shepherd people.
It's to care and shepherd people.
Not necessarily to grow a larger flock.
Yeah, or just to put on big programs. It's like, man, this is about people. And so anyway, that was a life-changing thing for me, which actually then spurred me on to go, you know what? What would it look like to go pastor a little church?
A little church of 30 people.
Oh, yeah, a little church.
And so love them to death.
Exactly. So going from, quick note, I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast. So when I put my name in the hat, I won't go down that whole road, but Calvary Baptist Church of Inglewood needed a part-time pastor. They had 30 people.
Right.
I heard about it, and I said, man, this sounds unbelievable. The same week, I was offered a position at a mega church to be the youth pastor of 2,500 kids. And so these were two completely different things. So the one was the dream, right? Like everything I'd been working for. Mega church.
And I can imagine the salary that would go with it.
It was ridiculous. They're sending me pictures of houses with pools. I mean, I'm not kidding. It was insane. And then here's this little dying church. And it was so clear.
And if the Lord hadn't opened your eyes and you read McShane,
yes,
you would have gone.
I would have jumped. Now,
don't tell me the Puritans don't matter today.
No, that's right.
And by the way, dude, my generation, I'm 65, we never sniffed a Puritan.
Yeah. Huh.
But the guys who are younger than me, they have grown up on them.
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing how those Puritan men like Baxter and Watson and others
Watson,
have had such an influence on this generation.
Yep.
And I'm so grateful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's what ended up happening. I'm part of that generation.
Sure you are.
So to me, it was a no-brainer. I'm like, all I wanted to do is go shepherd this little church, which, by the way, the lead pastor of that mega church, when he found out I was doing that, maybe I've shared this before, he started laughing. He said, I'd rather slit my wrists than go to a church like that. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
I'll never forget it. And it was just confirmed. Boy, God, thank you for protecting me from going to that church.
That's right.
But that's what started us go into Calvary. And one of the assumptions and it was kind of an experiment in some ways, honestly. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to this little dying church. I know what the scriptures say, and that is I'm called to shepherd, which at that point had become clear to me that there's 4 primary functions of shepherding in scripture: knowing the sheep, feeding the sheep, leading the sheep, and protecting the sheep. So knowing them. And that really has to do with, I need to know their names. I need to know what's going on in their lives. I need to love them, be in their lives. So relational ministry. This is not just from the platform. This is in people's lives. Feeding them from the pulpit, yes, but also making sure that every sheep gets the food they need. Little kids, do we have classes? Or how are they being discipled? Leading. How are we helping to lead them in their lives as Christians? How are we seeking to lead this congregation in a biblical way? And then protecting. Do I know them well enough? Everything flows from knowing. Do I know them well enough to know where they're tempted? Do I know the stuff that they're some bad food that she's beginning to eat because she's been reading in this book club with these women? And do you know what I mean? That I can step into that. Anyway, so knowing, feeding, leading, protecting the flock.
Okay, so tell me this. The first one of those is knowing.
Yes.
You can know about your congregation. You can know about who they are.
Yep.
This is Karen and this is Bill. He's an architect. She's a homemaker. They have 2 kids. They live in this subdivision.
Yep.
They're originally from Montana. They've become Christians. That you know about them.
Yep.
But that's not knowing them.
That's not knowing them. Yes.
How does a pastor begin to know his flock?
You know the flock by stepping into their lives in a personal, incarnational way. So relationally, and I'm talking, could you come over to our house for dinner? Let's go get some coffee. Hey, I noticed that Tommy has a football game this Sunday after church. I'd love to come after church and just hang out with you guys and be part of that.
Okay.
It's entering their life.
That's time consuming.
It is time consuming.
Because you got to study, like 40 hours a week on a message, right?
This is right. This is why shepherding in our day is a challenge. I think a lot of pastors don't even do it.
Do you know, I believe, and we're just talking here conversation-wise, as important as biblical expository church messages are, and believe me, they are supremely important. When we talk about church revitalization, the first word we use is preach. Pray, love, and stay. Preach is important. But for some of us, it's less threatening and less draining and more more enjoyment to spend 20 hours a week studying God's Word to preach 30 minutes on Sunday morning when we really need to spend 20 hours a week with these people in their lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've got to make a choice.
Yep.
And I think this generation of pastors perhaps tend to incline more toward the sermon preparation rather than the shepherding. And part of that is all the tools available for sermon preparation.
Well, sure.
When I was a young man, I had 4 or 5 books. I mean, if I wanted to do more than that, I had to go to a library somewhere.
Yep.
Today, on my laptop, I've got Logos software. I mean, there's no end to the time I can spend in sermon preparation. But I also, if I'm not shepherding the people I'm preaching to, what's the point?
No, that's right. That's right.
And it takes time.
It takes time. Well, and this is where I think this is a helpful distinction is Tim Whitmer, who was at Westminster, he was my mentor in my doctoral program, talks about macro level and micro level shepherding. So if we're using those 4 categories of know, feed, lead, and protect, we need to implement strategies of those 4 things on both a macro or congregational level as well as a micro or individual level. So for instance, feeding, take the category of feeding. What is a macro level or congregational level strategy? Preaching.
Sure.
Preaching the word on Sundays,
Absolutely.
hugely important.
Yep.
And that's great. But what about micro strategies? Oh, wait a second. That means each individual sheep needs to be fed as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like? And that's where, so you need to have individual, like feeding strategies. Are they in a discipleship group? Are they in an age-appropriate Sunday school class? Are they whatever? Does that make sense? And as a shepherd, I'm overseeing that to make sure they're not just macro-level strategy. A lot of churches settle at macro-level strategies.
Oh, absolutely.
When the truth is, in the New Testament, you would see, yes, macro-level strategies are important. But ultimately, Jesus didn't die for masses of people. He died for individuals.
Right.
We're called to shepherd individual souls. And that's where a lot of times folks check out and go, man, that just sounds like too much work. And I would say, well, call it what you want. It seems to be the work we're called to as pastors. I would also argue this is why raising up other pastor elders is so important.
Yeah, you can't, plurality of leaders has to happen.
That's right. On every level, deacons, pastor elders, children's ministry, it's leaders. Because a solo pastor model, you can shepherd well, I think, depending on your gifting, upwards of 50 to 100 people.
Yeah.
I think you can. But you start going beyond that, and I would even say, even with that, you're always going to do better more effective shepherding with a team.
Even with that.
Does that make
You're going
sense?
to need a team. Okay, so I want to put some framework to this.
Yeah.
And we'll make this probably 2 or 3 podcasts on these things of leading. What was the other word? Leading?
Yeah, so knowing, feeding, leading, and protecting.
Knowing, feeding, leading, and protecting.
Yep.
So knowing. All right, you said to get into their lives, obviously, spend time with them, live life with them, be hospitable, have them in your home. Just invest in them, right? Okay, I get. I mean, and don't ever quit doing that.
Yep.
But let's talk about even knowing who's there on Sunday morning. And how do you know who's there? I want you to tell us how you first did that, and we'll conclude this podcast today with some really practical advice, guys. So listen up and maybe share this with some other guys and people in your church. This is really important on how you can know who is at your church and who is not in worship, and that's a really important part of shepherding. I never did this, Mark. I've been pastoring for nearly 50 years, and I would just look around and go, yeah, I think, and I remember so many times riding home with Jill, and I'd say, was Al and Mary were there today? I can't remember. I don't think I saw them.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I think they were there. Oh, okay. And what about Karen? Was she there? No, she hadn't been there for a couple of weeks. I've never had a system of how to keep that in track. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. Okay. That's great and it's wise because of the 4 functions, feeding, leading, and protecting only happen if you know them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you don't know them, and that
can't do
begins
any
with
of that.
knowing they're actually present.
Yeah.
So Sunday morning, so this is where I would say you have to figure out a system. If you're going to shepherd well, you've got to be able to track people really, really well. So in terms of taking attendance and keeping track of people for anything and everything you do.
All right. So take attendance for anything and everything you do.
Anything and everything you do,
hang on a
including
minute.
Sunday morning worship.
Let me see a show of hands, you guys out there who take attendance of anything and everything you do. Okay, that's none of us. All right,
that's right.
great. Go right ahead.
That's right. And this is a shift. This is going to be a shift. But I will tell you, brother pastors who are listening, this could be the most significant change you make to your ministry that will affect the health of your church. So Sunday mornings, I think everything flows from the Sunday morning worship gathering. And so I would say you've got to find a way to take attendance on Sunday morning. Now, there's different ways you can do that.
Okay, so when you had 30 people, how did you do that?
Yeah, so literally, my wife, I asked my wife and said, hey, hon, could you on Sunday mornings, here, I've got a list of all the names of the people in our church. And at that point, again, there were 30, I think there were like 32 names total, something like that.
Okay.
And I said, would you just literally check off everybody who's here, if they're here or not? And if there's new people, let's be sure to get their names and we can add it to the list.
Okay, that is a simple thing to do.
Super simple.
And if you're a pastor of a normative-sized church, and like I said, about 50% of all churches, 45 to 50% have less than 50, you could do that next week.
You could do that next week. Why is that important? Here's why. If you start doing that every week, which you should, you can begin to track your people's worship attendance and follow up on them in an appropriate way. So for me, part of the system is any time that somebody's gone, I want to make sure that I follow up on them. So the goal that we have at our church, even now, is a larger church, is to follow up with every person at least once a month.
Okay, so if someone has missed 2 Sundays in a row, you call them and say, "Hey, this is Pastor Mark.
Yeah.
Where in the world have you been?
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
why aren't
what
you
I do.
coming to church?"
What's great about it is, no, don't do that. Don't do that. But what's great about the system,
What do you say?
is it triggers. Here's what I would say. I'd say, hey, let's say it was you and Jill.
Yeah, right.
I would reach out to both of you and I'd say, hey guys, just want you to know I love you. And I'm just praying for you today. Anything I can pray for you. I'm so thankful you're part of our church.
So you don't say we have missed you.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily that first time.
It depends. Yeah. Or ever. If I know that might just make you feel guilty. Because me reaching out alone is telling you Pastor Mark cares about us.
Well, and that's knowing your flock.
That's knowing your flock.
You know who you can be open with like that.
That's right.
And who you can't.
That's right. There are times where, honestly, you've got to lean in and say, hey, brother, man, I love you. Haven't seen you in a while, and just want you to know, man, we just love you. And the Lord loves you. And it's really important that you make this a priority. I'd love to get together.
That's great.
Or whatever it is, right?
That's great.
And that's built on the fact that you and your wife hopefully know that I do love you.
That's
and
good.
I care about you and I can speak into it. But if you have no system, how do you track people? How do you keep track of new people well? The other thing that does is not only we're tracking the attendance on Sunday morning, but we have meetings on Monday night where we actually look at the attendance from the day before, and we look at this master list, and we're asking the questions. So in our church, we have 4 core commitments that we just think these are 4 marks of a biblical church, and you can word them however you want to word them: worship, connect, grow, and go. Okay. So worship is the worship gathering, connect into community, grow through discipleship, and go on mission. So what we do is we look at every single person in our church and we keep track of, okay, are they in worship? X that. They're faithful in worship. Connecting? I don't think they're connected anywhere. Growing? I don't know if they're growing anywhere. Going? They are living on mission. So we want to keep track of how are they becoming a passionate disciple of Jesus.
I don't want to make this, believe me, I am not into secular stuff and business practices when it comes to church-related stuff.
You?
I am not into that. I am so opposed to that. Yeah. Mainly because Henry Blackaby made it abundantly clear to me one time, we do not follow the wisdom of men, and the ways of God are not the ways of men. Yeah. And so and you don't have to convince people in your church to listen to business practices. You have to convince them to follow the Word of God. So I have a problem with that. However, with all of that said, what you're talking about in many ways is something called really a customer relations process. Where if you have a business, you've got to have good relationships with your customers, which means you got to know their habits, their patterns. You got to know their needs. In order to serve them best, you got to know them. It's that kind of
that's
thing.
right.
And so really, we should be far better than the secular world at taking care of those people under whose care we were given.
And let me say this real quick. I know we got to land the plane on this episode. But one of the things hopefully you hear in what I'm sharing, and this is a deep conviction, it is not enough for a pastor to delegate all of his shepherding responsibilities to lay people. What I see in churches is, well, how are people being shepherded? Oh, we do that in small groups.
Oh, man.
Or we do that here. Listen, you will not come to I don't know how you could come to any other conclusion in the New Testament than a pastor must be in personal relationship with the sheep under their care.
Okay, so when we do church assessments, one of the questions that you have in your book actually is when you look back at your church's history, who was the most loved pastor and why?
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, folks, most of the time, the most loved pastor was not the best leader and the greatest preacher.
That's true.
He's the one who spent the most time with his people.
That's right.
And that's what they remember.
And that makes your preaching powerful.
Oh, it does.
That encourages, if you're going, man, I'm not the best preacher in the world. I want to be faithful to the text, but I'm not. You know what? If you love your people well, your preaching will be far more powerful than it ever would be.
So when you first went there, you had your wife stand there with a list
she's
of
in the
30
back
people,
of the sanctuary.
And she could look and she could just click off and find out who was new and write their names down. Okay, move forward. Let's say the church is 100, 150 people.
Yep.
Talk about Could you have some people appointed to stand there with iPads? And
Okay,
do the same thing?
so that's where we moved. So
Okay.
we moved to putting it all on, and this is where I would encourage everybody to find some kind of software
Church
program,
management
church
software.
management software.
Right.
There's so many out there.
Yeah.
But moving from handwritten to get a software that works for you and then use it. So like we use Church Community Builder now.
Okay.
Part of that, what's built in, is we have all of our sheep, all of our people, and on Sunday mornings we have two staff members at this point, but they used to just be lay volunteers who literally keep track of everybody who's in the sanctuary. And then we do the same thing with all of our kids and youth in the building.
So as a pastor, as a group of pastors on Monday,
Yes.
you know who was in the building.
We know who was in the building. We know who was not in the building. We know who has not been in the building for 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I mean, we know what's going on. And at this point with our size, we divide up our congregation into 8 mini flocks. And each pastor elder, we have 8 of them, oversee one of those. And it's their responsibility to follow up on and care for specifically those in their mini flock.
Okay, so this is really exciting. So rather than having a congregation of 800 in gathered worship,
Yeah.
which you do, that they absolutely do, but in terms of shepherding and relationship, you have 8 congregations of 100.
That's right.
That are
We have
cared
8
for.
small churches,
Yeah.
Congregations, if you will,
Yeah.
that are being shepherded by pastor elders alongside deacons. Mm-hmm. So our deacons, like, where do deacons fit in this?
Yeah.
It's Acts 6.
Yeah.
They work alongside the elders together to shepherd the spiritual and physical needs
Okay.
of a congregation.
And you've written a book about this.
Yes.
And we'll put the book in the show
Yep,
notes.
yep.
And you'll want to get that. Okay, we're going to come back
Sounds good.
next time. We're going to talk about feeding and leading. We'll do the other things
Awesome.
as well. Thank you for listening to Revitalize and Replant. We would ask you to please subscribe to this. Just hit the subscribe button if you would. That would be really helpful to us, and we need all the help that we can possibly get. And by the way, we have a list of all of our listeners, and we can tell who has subscribed and who hasn't. And
know who you are.
You'll be getting a call from us and say, "Brother, is everything okay?" All right, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.